Hello everyone and welcome to This Week in Stupid for the 1st of May 2022. I have been made aware that the Lotus Eaters have been using the brand This Week in Stupid without my permission. And I have got my lawyers to talk with their lawyers to cease and desist this horrible activity. Furthermore, it's not just illegal for them to do it, it's also immoral because This Week is Stupid came up from the mind of a Romanian and as such is now part of Romanian culture. And what they are doing here is called cultural appropriation, and it makes me feel very unsafe. And with that out of the way, let us begin this week with a very important public announcement. Please remember to change your desktop wallpaper before having a presentation at a university. Because as you can see here, it is a shameful display. Now, the resolution doesn't really allow us to see whether or not this is him face palming or is it a mask. But it doesn't seem to vibe well with the decorum of the academia. I wonder though if this is gender studies. That would have been even more funny. Like they're talking about sexism and how the male gaze is affecting women, and yet this gentleman right here, a true man of culture, tries to hide his power level, but unfortunately his power is too strong, and it's emanating from his laptop. Unfortunately, I do not know anything else about that particular situation, because it's just a picture circulating on the internet and not a whole article. But I do know a lot about gender studies. You see, I'm all about empowering women. This is why women come to my channel, to take power away from me. It's like the Green Lanterns take power from the Great Lantern. And I have decided to empower my wife this week by purchasing her a book, by giving her knowledge. Look at this. Recipes to take down the patriarchy. There is no patriarchy in my house, by the way, because we took it down. A feminist cookbook, reclaiming the kitchen, cultivating community, and smashing the patriarchy one recipe at a time. And you can find this book on Amazon. It's a great read. I full-heartedly recommend that you empower your significant other by using it directly from the academia right into your kitchen. Now let us talk about the most important subject that we will ever talk about this channel. Climate change. The world is changing. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. And I want you to be afraid so that you keep watching my channel for updates. And in order to solve this problem, the man in line for the throne in the United Kingdom, Prince Charles, has found a solution. You see, cows are part of the problem, because they burp and they fart. And those farts contain methane, which goes into the atmosphere. I'm not kidding. That's actually what the science says. And if the science says it, then who are we to disagree? The science is the science. It is unequivocal. It is the word of God. And because of that, in order to fix this issue, Prince Charles is now backing face masks for cows to help save the planet. I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. I might be wrong on this, but I think it might. Well, who cares? By the way, aren't the masks containing microplastics? Weren't plastics bad for the ocean? Didn't California now ban plastic straws just because of things like this? Also, I love the fact that in the United Kingdom, no one asks, where is the money going? Like, who makes these masks? Who pays for them? Which rich person ends up having his pockets filled with cash for this? You know what? Too many questions. It's too hard. This is why we need fact checkers and people to think for us, because it's a lot easier when someone else does the thinking. When you do the thinking, it's hard. So putting masks on cows might seem an unlikely way of saving the planet, but they did receive the royal seal of approval. The methane-catching devices, an invention backed by Prince Wales, could be fitted to British herds to reduce the emissions. Now, I thought that Britain is just a small part in the big picture and most of the pollution comes from China. I'm curious if China is going to use this type of technology on its cows. What do you think about India? Will the Hindi use it on their cows? You know, cows are sacred there. Very interesting. Putting masks on cows might seem like an unlikely way of saving the planet, but it did get the seal of approval. Startup Zelp, founded by Francisco Norris, uses pioneering technology to convert methane burped out by the dairy and beef herds into water and carbon dioxide in an attempt to stem emission. The company has been working with one of the UK's largest meat producers to trial the devices of cows to help out the carbon footprint. Cows produce methane and carbon dioxide, both of which contribute to climate change. Around 95% of the methane emitted by a cow is thought to come from their mouths and nostrils. The device sits around the animal's head and captures methane emitted when it exhales. By the way, I'm curious how uncomfortable this is for the cow, or do we not care? Probably we don't care. Who gives a fuck? The invention was one of four to win a £15,000 prize run by the Terra Carta Design Lab. Winners were selected by a panel, including Prince Wales. How old is the Queen in the UK, by the way? She's 96? Who's in line for the throne? It's Prince Charles, isn't he? Soon trademark, as they say. Soon. I love all of the people supporting the monarchy, right? I mean, they're probably incredibly enthusiastic with the upcoming prince. I understand he wants to modernize the monarchy. And by modernize, he actually said he wants the monarchy to take a more active role into important affairs. I guess affairs like this, right? Like climate changes. Of course, yeah. Monarchy is great. Holy shit. Speaking to the winners, he said that I can't tell you how proud I am. By the way, wasn't there a person who actually figured out how to filter microplastics away from the water? And literally no one hears about them. Like, for some reason, no one hears about. They were very young as well. A young entrepreneur, very, very smart, brilliant mind. The papers didn't say a peep. While the dioxide makes for the majority of global greenhouse emissions, methane is the second most prevalent gas. It does not last long in the atmosphere, and okay. So, I hope that this technology works, because then the vegans will finally shut the fuck up. And be like, well, you don't have to eat the bugs anymore. Now you can eat the cow. The problem is, though, I think this looks to me like it's made out of plastic. Do you know how many cows there are? Do you know how many of these you would need? How do you dispose of them? That's the question that I want to know. It's almost like they have solved one problem in order to create another. Again, I'm not a scientist, but I'm just saying. You know, maybe I need to go to a university, get some student debt, get 6 years of crippling student debt on my ass, and then maybe I can talk about this, but then still no one would listen because it would not be the scientific consensus. So then I would have to convince more scientists to agree with me, and maybe like 20 years down the line, they can also say, all right, well, but these are made of plastic. Like, you're solving one problem and you're creating another. Although, at the end of the day, who cares? The planet is transitionary, but the virtue signal is eternal. And while we're on the subject of masks, I managed to see this on the Twitter from Jared Rabel. I boarded a plane today with my son, and mid-flight, the pilot announces that the mask mandate is over. Flight attendants pulled off their masks and sneezed directly into their hands while screaming, "This is MAGA airspace." My son turned to me in tears. I don't know what to do. Now, any normal person would realize that this is sarcasm and he is trolling. But there are those among us who manage to transition normality. And these are, of course, the modern clergy, the New York Times journalists.
Hi, Jared. I'm a New York Times journalist. I'd love to speak to you over the phone about what happened to you in your flight this evening. Can you please give me a call at or let me know how I can reach you. Hope this isn't coming too late in your day. Thank you. Look forward to hearing from you and giving me this great opportunity to score some wins against those evil, pesky right-winger bigots.
Hello, Victoria. I would love to discuss the incident at your earliest convenience. I was pretty upset about the whole thing. Unfortunately for you, my dear, it is satire, so you cannot get your ad revenue and your clicks today. That only someone at the New York Times would believe that this was actual newsworthy. In my time of contemplation, I was wondering how your team deals with the multitude of false stories that you peddle out daily to use as political propaganda. And if you could give me advice on how to take my satire to the next level. Best wishes, Jared Rebel. But yes, if even the New York Times journalists are incapable of differentiating between sarcasm and actual news, how can we, the mortal citizens, have any chance to deal in front of such an assault on our reality? And this is made even worse in the era of Elon Musk, where he promises the horrors of free speech upon society. And as such, only the government, through the Democratic Party, can create a system that would ensure that you can tell fact from fiction. In other words, the Democrats set what fact is, and there are no more two sides of the same story. There is always the truth and misinformation. If you're with the government, you're with the truth. If you're against the government, you're with misinformation. Very simple. So, the ink hasn't even dried on the Twitter sale, and a bunch of people are already talking about restructuring the internet and creating the Ministry of Truth. Having federal agencies going on about how misinformation is a national health concern and wanting to toss out Section 230. Now, interestingly enough, it's only the Democrats and the left which are talking about the horrors of people communicating with each other over the internet freely. But here you have it. One party, one voice, one nation. As part of this, tech platforms need to recognize that they play a unique role in how people consume information, and their decisions have an impact of every aspect of society. With that power comes accountability and the need for some democratic oversight. For too long, tech platforms have amplified disinformation and extremism with no accountability. The European Union is poised to do something about it. I urge our transatlantic allies to push the Digital Service Act across the finish line and bolster global democracy before it's too late. First of all, I noticed that democracy is the most important thing now. Not liberty, not freedom, no, democracy. But a democracy where people are controlled what they talk to each other and how they think. And of course, the Democrats should be the chaperones of this democracy. And they are renowned for playing fair. And obviously, they will allow right-wingers to also do their own political activism unhindered. It's only that the dangerous misinformation coming from outside that needs to be fought. It's not the misinformation that comes from their political opponents. By the way, what exactly is misinformation? Because I never heard it defined. But what I do know is that there is only one person on Earth that is capable of filtering normal information from disinformation. And it is this lady. She has been put at the head of the Ministry of Truth. Not only is she demanding for more censorship, in other words, preventing the information from reaching your ears, but she also said that the Hunter Biden laptop scandal was Russian disinformation. But she got that wrong, oopsie. oopsie, it can happen. Look, even to the best of us, even the one person on earth capable of filtering normal information from this sometimes can get it wrong. Apparently that result may have influenced an election, but like, oopsie, like, she done goofed. I wonder though, like, if social media is so dangerous, why not just shut it down? You know, Uganda shut it down before their elections, but that was problematic because now free speech comes into play. So it's important to have social media because free speech, but it's also important to censor social media. As long as the private company does it, but under the guise of the government. Does this make any sense? It doesn't have to. Just listen to what the Democrats are telling you. Now, speaking of that lady, do you know what she did? She has decided to speak to you. Yes, to you. Now, she looks at you as a child because only children need to be protected from the outside world. So she's speaking more on your language, explaining to you what this information is.
Pondering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious.
I would like to remind everyone that the slogan of the new administration in the United States is "The adults are back in charge." The adults are back in charge. Can we have the children back in charge? I could really like some low gas prices, some world peace, and some shit posting on Twitter. But anyway, this does show that the progressives are not bigots. They are willing to change their mind on certain issues when provided with a lot of evidence. And this is why I like to call the difference between the pre-Elon era and the post-Elon era. You see, before the progressives were, if you don't like it, then go make your own Twitter. And now,
it's impossible to make our own Twitter. Twitter is under ownership of Elon and must abide by our hate speech rules.
before Elon, it was Twitter is a private company. It can do whatever it wants. Now it's
Twitter cannot do whatever it wants. It's literally fascist and it's killing people.
And by the way, this is what the US president also said about Facebook. So I just want you to understand. People talking to each other gets people killed. Governments, however, those are fine. They never do anything wrong. Especially when they drone strike wrong targets. Do you remember that? I know, the memory of the public has a time span of give or take 5 days, but I do remember. Not a single person got punished for that accident. But Twitter is the problem. The government must not regulate private companies.
Government must regulate and break up Twitter to stop it becoming a platform for hate.
By the way, notice how they also don't define what hate is? And why is hate the only human emotion that is being policed? Why not jealousy? Why not greed? This has to be my absolute favorite. Twitter doesn't even matter in the real world. Only a small fraction of the population uses Twitter.
An evil billionaire is taking over the largest mainstream internet media. Twitter is the public marketplace of ideas.
Which is why it needs to be censored, to make sure that only the correct ideas get to flourish. No problem with billionaires owning Twitter.
Elon, the billionaire, buying Twitter instead of solving world hunger is literally so selfish.
By the way, you should not be able to allow a single person having this conversation without asking, okay, but what about the people who sold Twitter? Why aren't they solving world hunger now? Because you understand how money works, right? Like Elon gave money to other people. So the money is still there. Why aren't the other people using the money to solve world hunger? And why aren't the progressives going up at BlackRock and the Vanguard company and Saudi Arabian princes asking them, hey, if Elon gave you the money for Twitter, why aren't you solving world hunger? It's almost like, I know, but it's almost like they don't really care about solving world hunger. Like, unironically, given what I've seen up till now, at least from the people online, like in real life it may be different, but online, the only thing that blue check marks care about is not to help other people, but to just maintain left-wing progressives in power. That's it. Because it used to be about some principles in the beginning. It was eat the rich, make sure that the rich pay taxes, and all of that evaporated, not just when Elon Musk managed to get Twitter, and all of a sudden all of these people were defending BlackRock and Vanguard and Saudi Arabian sheiks. But now Disney, the mouse, had its powers stripped in Florida. And what I mean by powers, like de facto power, from what I understand, Disney actually had the ability to govern its own land. Like, it had its own police force, it paid less taxes, it was able to build stuff without needing a license. And because it got involved into politics, the Florida state government, the state legislature, took away Disney's ability to self-govern. And the Democrats were screaming. No, not figuratively, like literally screaming. This was painful for them.
And we will vote on these two bills. It is my hope that we will be able to proceed civilly and with decorum and with respect for one another. Read the next bill.
By Senator Bradley, Senate Bill 4C, a bill to be entitled an act relating to independent special districts.
Like, why are they screaming? Is this an effective tactic? Have they discovered the fus roda, and they were hoping that it would have an effect to prevent the voting going forward? It is so bizarre. It is so bizarre. Screaming because one of the most powerful corporations in the world is losing some of its privileges. I mean, we're for equality, right? Do other companies have their own private police force? Can other companies build without licenses? Is it the rule? If it's not the rule, well, maybe we should have equality if you're a left-wing person. But again, left-wing people now are all about just keeping themselves in power, maintaining privileges, and virtue signaling. And I noticed that my private company can do whatever it wants until Elon Musk buys it. We need to eat the rich and tax the rich until you go after Disney. Muy interesante. Now, I'm not going to ignore the fact that there are some interesting aspects coming from the right as well, including some bizarre statements coming from Senator Ted Cruz, which says that Disney programming will soon depict Mickey and Pluto going at it. In every episode now, they're going to have Mickey and Pluto going at it. In case you forgot, or maybe you weren't born during the time where these cartoons were popular, this is who Ted Cruz is talking about. This is Mickey and Pluto. You have a sick mind, Mr. Cruz. A very, very disturbed and sick mind. Anyway, right. Thank you for watching This Week is Stupid. And if you liked it, let me know what you think in the comment section. In the meantime, I would like to remind people that I now have a VTube avatar. And I gotta say, man, like I got a lot of respect for people doing VTube because controlling that little sock puppet is a lot more difficult than people think. And it's actually kind of like being a puppet master. It's an entire craft in making sure that the puppet does what you want it to do. And it's a very interesting thing. I absolutely love it. And if you want to see my puppet, it's on the Lack of Entertainment channel. There's a link into the description. And as usual, after this, I will be live streaming on my live stream channel. And I'll be playing It's a Way Out with Viri. The previous one was very popular. You guys enjoyed it. So we're going to continue playing it. And hopefully I'll see you guys there. And if you're watching this in Rewind, consider giving a super chat. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Take care.